What's going on, everyone? And welcome to another episode of the Dudeality podcast, where our motto is living comfortably uncomfortable. My name is Ian Perez, joined by Jonathan Mercado, Victor Rivera, and Chris Zora. We're four ordinary dudes with extraordinary dreams. Jonathan, what's up, dude?
Thanks for the intro, my man. Well, thank you once again for tuning into another episode where we grow from the inside out. We turn our dreams into reality, and we stop all the wishing and we start taking action, guys. This is the podcast. We talk about leadership, growth, financial growth, self-development, and ways to get 1% better every single day. We have a nice, good topic that we're going to try to break the chain of maybe unlearning some bad habits, some generational habits that you may not think are habits, but they are, and they may be working against you. So we're going to get into that. But before we get into that, we have the Arena of Fire, where we hold each other accountable. We talk about our week and are we doing the things that we said we were supposed to be doing. Messed that part up. But I think it's because I have the mic swaying back and forth, so it might be throwing me off a little bit, off my little swagger. Just a little recap. We do have a new podcast member here. His name is Victor, but you might be on the YouTubes and think like it's a new guy. We don't have a new guy on the podcast. It's just him with longer hair. And we also have another new character, guys. Chris Zora with the do-rag on. Is that a do-rag? What is that, Chris?
It's a backwards hat.
Oh, I'm like, what is that?
Jesus.
We got a do-rag. We got a new hairstyle. All right, so let's go ahead and swing it to my man, Victor. What do we have?
Man, you make me laugh when you're like this. It's so funny, man. You look like you're Oprah trying to interview people right now. Like, you know, actually like I do in the street. You know,
yeah, they do the street. Like the mic. All right.
Yeah. So I'm awesome, man. I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually very proud of myself. I think almost a month in of just being on a what is it, my routine as far as exercise. I got everything down, so I'm doing pretty good. I'm kind of jumping back to where I was like mid-summer, so going into that, but it's gonna be a tough one right here. Holidays are starting to kick in for real. We got Thanksgiving next week, and we got Christmas coming up, so winter is where most people drop off as far as their fitness is concerned. Everyone kind of slows down a little bit, so hoping to keep it going through this winter time. So been good on I didn't really get to read that much last week, so that was I guess one of the things that I didn't do very well, but I should be in time to finish this book.
What book is it?
So it's Love People, Not Things. Yeah. And so shoot, that hit my
we got
mic.
a week and a half left to finish it.
Yeah. So it's not a big book, but learn some cool things, new things. But yeah, man, things are going so good so far.
That's good, brother. What's up, Chris?
Yeah, so this past week I traveled to Cali. Just got back in last night around like 2 a.m. So I was not on my fitness at all because I was just spending time with family and everything.
You said Cali, right?
Yeah.
That explains the do-rag. Okay. Went to the hood, back with the do-rag.
Yeah. As far as the reading goes, like I started the book, but I really didn't read that much either.
What'd you do on the airplane, man?
I could not focus on the book, man. I could not. I was like, I can't even read it right now. So I just watched some Netflix on the plane. So, but yeah, that was my week. I didn't really do too much besides hang out with family.
Yeah, well, that's good, man. It's always a good time. What's up, Mr. Ian? Mr. Kane, before y'all jumped on the Zoom, he had his head. There it is. Boom.
Yeah, I might just sit like this.
On the wrestler? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Or Undertaker. Undertaker, really. He was my favorite.
What was it? WWC, right? WWC was like the
WWF?
WWF. What's it? F.
So
What
the
was it before F?
WCW, there was
Yeah, it was
WWE,
WCW,
Okay, there you
yeah.
go. There you go. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
don't get me
All right.
started.
Okay.
Maybe like mankind. More.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
you
go.
look like Mankind, but with the hair down, you look like Kane. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, brother, but
I'm scary,
I
I
think
guess. I
Vic
don't know.
throwing some shade over there, inadvertently.
Mankind was like the
Not
number
a
one
handsome
wrestler
guy.
for like forever. It's a
I forget his
compliment,
real name.
Ian.
The dude with Sacco, isn't he? Is that someone else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this past week was good. But it's been a couple weeks now. I've at least worked out 2 times a week, which may sound like it's not a lot, but from where I was before, it's an improvement.
What'd you do, man? Since you didn't work out with me this week, what'd you do?
Workouts in my garage. Really. So I've done a push and pull day.
I can
just
see
haven't-
this fool going in the garage, opening up the fridge and doing a couple curls and then shutting it.
No,
Calling it a
man.
day.
I'm lazy, but I'm not that lazy. Yeah, I mean, I have some dumbbells and stuff in there, so I just kind of do some workouts at the top of the dome, throw a little bit of push-ups, burpees. I'm not gonna lie, not burpees, but I do some jump ropes.
I was like,
no,
dog.
burpees
You had
out of the question.
the willpower to do
Out of the
burpees,
question.
self-imposed burpees.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I don't know what I'd rather do more, planks or burpees.
I like the
They both
honesty though. He's
suck.
like, nah, I'm not. I didn't do
I'm lying.
burpees.
But yeah, no, I started You Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Yes. Did you do the audible?
I did. Yeah.
Is it him?
No, I'm pretty sure it's him. Yeah, I mean, so like I've heard interviews before. It's just his face. His face doesn't match his voice.
Yeah, he
right?
has that deep, raggedy voice, and he's like really tiny. Well, back in the day, he was like really big, but
Yeah.
like now he's like really tiny.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you've ever heard Barry Bonds talk. He's just big dude.
I haven't.
Just kinda
Oh
really-
yeah, that's weird.
Like Mike Tyson, right?
Yeah, that's another good
There you
one
go.
too.
So what the?
So those are the
Alright.
two big main ones. Again, photography. I've just been learning, watching YouTube videos, taking pictures, kind of networking really to set stuff up in the future after I get the basics down. But I pretty much determined I want to do some sort of photography, videography for sports to help companies help recruit kids. I mean, I feel like that's a good way to give back, right? Like learning a craft, getting a skill, and then being able to help other individuals in the sport they love kind of pursue their dreams, right? It could be, my children, it could be your children or someone else's. So, and sports has always been a big part of my life. So I feel like I would just enjoy being there, watching games and doing something I love to.
Yeah, you're a sports guy, brother, for sure. For me, guys, it was another busy week. We had leadership training in Dallas at Globe Life, which was pretty awesome. Globe Life is the new Texas Ranger Stadium. And man, CG goes hard in the paint when it comes to developing from long hours of information. But it was good. It was all fun. We ended with judging CG games, which is probably the most exhausting and rewarding job at the exact same time, because you're like malnourished all day, motivating people, yelling at the top of your lungs, like really trying to get the best out of people. And your lips are cracked and your voice is gone, and it's 8 p.m. and you're still, cheerleading for these guys and coaching them up to give their best. But it's also rewarding because without that, they wouldn't have gone as hard, right? Having somebody yell at them in their face, giving them words of encouragement, and see them just push a little harder. And then when they're dead and they're laying on the ground, they're like, "Thank you." So that's really awesome. But it's really hard to see that when you get those breaks and you're exhausted and you want to sit down. But it was a blessing, right? It's a blessing. So that was fun, just being around other leaders, getting to when I get into groups, I'm not a natural extrovert. It may seem like I love to just talk, but I love to talk with people in my circle. But when I get into like new environments, I'm like that dude that just on the wall a little bit. So, but this time I made an effort, very intentional about just creating conversations like I would do at camp and like speaking to people. I had to sing in front of everyone and with no alcohol. So that was, and I didn't have to, but I did it anyways. We did a mystery. We had culture events where we built culture with our teammates, and we did a mystery murder party. and you have a script and all that kind of good stuff. And I was this female diva, and I had to do a song because I got the mic on, and I'll even do it here. But it had the script of like you sing this song. Like majority of the people didn't sing their song; they just kind of read it. But I got into character, and it was like electric jellyfish. Da, 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 and now my hips are swinging. Anyways, that's not my character to do stuff like that with people I don't know and no alcohol in the system. So that was a big win. So it was just an amazing, phenomenal week of just learning some content about leadership and being around amazing people. But other than that, man, it's just a blessing to be here again, brother. I love it. Let's just keep this thing going. But I do have a crazy fun topic real quick.
Uh-oh.
I feel kind of bad. My son, they did the 40-yard dash, right? And he told me his time, and it was like a 5.6 or something like that. I don't know. And I couldn't help myself. I don't know if you remember your time, but when he told me his time was 5.6, to kind of give you a little heads up, I was like a 4.6, like 4.5, 4.6.
4.78, baby.
I was pretty quick. I was like a 4.5, 4.6. That's pretty quick. I was a running back, and that was like in 7th grade. And the fast people like 4.4s, right? 4.4s, like they're fast. Well, anyways, going off my context of like what running back should be, my son was a running back. I couldn't help myself but to be that kid in the classroom where you laugh and you can't stop laughing. I remember that, and like you just the just get overwhelmed. Anyways, he told me he ran a 5.6, bro, and I felt like shit, and I apologized while I was laughing, but I was laughing so hard the entire time.
You're an ass.
Don't make your kid cry.
Bro, I could not help myself. He was walking away. I was like, son, I fucking love you. I'm so sorry. Anyways, that was just a little funny moment that I couldn't.
He'll just have to be a power
myself.
back, just not a speed. He's
Jerome Bettis style.
He's definitely was a fullback, right? Somebody's gonna chuck people. I was definitely like a quicker agility running back, but I don't know, that inner kid, right? Just the teacher would tell y'all stop laughing, you just laugh more. Bro, I swear he made his way downstairs, all the way downstairs, and I was still laughing. I was like, I'm so sorry. Can't help myself.
You're an ass.
That was an asshole moment, but you have those moments sometimes with your kids. That was one of them. Y'all had something like that? Or y'all just like good parents all the way
I definitely thought the topic was what would you run your 40 in, but
yeah, what'd you run your 40 in?
4.78 was my fastest. That was
that's pretty fucking decent, man. That's good.
That was my sophomore year in high school. Actually, that was most of high school.
Chris, y'all remember y'all's 40, Victor?
I remember play football, so I didn't run it.
Yeah, I ran like about a 4.5.
I used to like my fastest mile time was
yeah, I mean, I was pretty quick. I wasn't like, I obviously wasn't the fastest guy.
I mean, it's fast. You're not the fastest, but you're fast. Victor ran like a 4.6, 4.7. I'm pretty sure Victor probably had some speed back in the day. Judging by his body
middle
now.
School, I was chubby in middle school. I probably wasn't
were
so
you?
fast.
Oh, we're talking about middle school times? Oh, dog, yeah. No,
I'm just talking like, do you remember the time like when I only ran it like when I was in middle school, and that's all I remember.
Okay. Yeah, no, I never ran that or time myself for that. So you don't need to be fast in basketball. You need to be skilled.
Let's all run it now and see where we're at.
I'm gonna blow out my knee.
Slice
hamstring. Stretch out for like a couple hours.
Oh, no.
Oh, that would be funny to watch.
I have one good run in me, and that's it.
All right, guys, and you're gonna need like an hour warm up.
Hour and a half tops.
Yo, let's go ahead. We have a great topic. Like I said, guys, maybe you're inherited a habit that you don't think it's a habit. You have some goals in life that you're trying to achieve. Maybe you're not hitting them. Maybe you find yourself in a rat race where you're just in that hamster wheel and you're going back and forth. You're not realizing, what's holding you back. And whether you know it or not, you develop some habits growing up. Maybe it's generation after generation. It's been taught over time, and you don't even think it's a habit. And so today we're going to be identifying, what are those habits that you may not know that are habits that are holding you back? And what are some ways that we can, break that chain and be able to move forward and get 1% better and get, move towards our goals, right? Really achieve what we want to achieve. And so this is a great topic. We all have some experience with it. And we're going to go ahead and pop it off. And I'm going to go ahead and swing it to my man, Mr. Victor, because he has some deep roots, whether, like I told you guys, whether you know it or not, there's some deep roots on how you were created into this world and how you were brought up. And so my man Victor, if anybody first, we like to always go over the definition or any kind of definition. Bad habits. Y'all got any kind of definitions or anything like that?
So when we brought up this topic at first, I would say I was a little bit lost, but then once you kind of got into it, it kind of
zoned in.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of what, as far as me and my wife talk about it a lot, especially with how we raise our kids. So there's something called like a generational bad habits, right? So things that get passed on through generations that create like bad habits, things that you do that you when you were growing up, or you're like, man, I'm not going to do that when I'm an adult, but you end up doing the same thing, like not even thinking about it. You end up exhibiting the same attitudes and same actions or behaviors that as a kid you're like, oh, I'm not going to be like that. So very, very simple. Like if you grew up with, around, like people who drank, but it was a negative, for example, right? I think say, I'm not going to drink when I grow up, and you end up doing the same thing, right? So then you find yourself in a position to where you become that person or doing something that you said you would never do, right? Yeah. And that's one of the things that from coming from a Latino family, there's a lot of things that we carry from generation to generation.
I thought yes.
Yeah, for real. Shoot, I hate tortillas. There's no tomorrow. But no, like things that are not healthy, like they're not healthy for your family, but you kind of just accept it, and you just think, oh, this is how things are. And
culture, right? It's culture.
Yeah, things that should be. But then when you dig deeper into like, and why, am I like this? Like, for example, like a very simple one is, if you get angry quickly, right? I'm like, man, what do I like? I get angry real fast, right? And then, and so something when you're a kid, right? You either saw someone getting angry all the time, or you never really developed an emotional skill to learn how to like manage your anger. So now you just let loose, right? You were allowed to be angry when you're small or growing up. So a lot for me, some of the habits that are talking with my wife is that, like, when I was a kid, my parents used to be mad when I used to spill something or drop something or be clumsy. Like, and I get mad at myself now as an adult. When I drop something, I get so pissed at myself. Like, why did you drop that? Or why did you, like, it frustrates me today.
Yeah.
And so even now when my kids drop something, I'm better at it now, but when they were small or like, it would trigger me, like, I would yell at them.
Yeah.
I'm ashamed to say, but I would yell at them.
Yeah.
And so now I'm better at it. I just like I'm still get upset, like, in my head, but I'm like, let's clean it up together. So those little things like that are like things that your parents did that you just do automatically. Right. I know I used to be really strict with my firstborn, with Jacob. I used to be really strict, like my parents were on me when I was growing up.
That's the only thing we knew.
Yeah, but until now, I'm still working to kind of change things. The little kids definitely have a different experience, but that really messed up with, like, his confidence and for him speaking up and things like that. Because growing up with me, it was like, you don't speak up, like, you don't talk back, you don't say things like in front of adults, you stay quiet. And if you did, you get in trouble,
Yeah.
You get that look, like, wait till we get home, type of stuff. So some of the same things I projected, when I was young parent. But but those things are carried because even our parents had it worse than us. I know my mom told me stories of how she used to, growing up. I was like, dang, that was rough. That's actual abuse,
Yeah.
And so and then I can't imagine, my grandparents, great grandparents, stuff like that, things that are get taught and carry on. Because one of the things I was looking at is that reading about is that, like, our parents, I would say for ours, because we come from, obviously maybe you guys, but we come from like a very poor background, that you're taught to survive, and you got to do certain things to survive, and right, you got to be, a certain way, right? And so so those are the things that just gets passed on, and no one really corrects them until right now, because we have such an abundant I think access to, like, learning, like books.
No, even with abundance,
Yeah, I
that
would.
stuff gets carried on because people
Yeah.
with closed mindset, like, this is only what I know, and this is
Right.
what I'm going to teach.
That's
And
a good
then
point.
that's how they grow up, like, for the rest of the world. Like, we're only learning new things because we're open-minded of learning new perspectives, right? We're opening up books. They're like, whoa, there's better ways to actually do these things. So we're breaking the chain now, but there's people out there, like, they may see other things differently, like, oh, that's probably a better way, but this is how it's been done in my household, and it's been done for generations.
Yeah.
And this is just what it is.
Yeah. Even and then like our own family, we have that, to where there's people or friends that are like, no, well, it was done this way, and I turned out good,
Yo, that's tough. That's a tough
you know,
conversation.
but it's not the same experience for anyone. I would
Yeah.
say, like, me and my siblings, I'll say me and my sister are probably very similar in a way that we're like, have like tough skin, I would say. But my brother's is a little different. He's more in touch with, like, his emotions and things.
Yeah.
So the way we perceive things, where now we talk about it as things that we perceive things, or how we took, or I took it, was different than my brother took it. He took it harder. And so when things that, as we got brought up, or how we were disciplined and things like that nature, and to me it was like, oh, I didn't think it was that bad, but in his eyes, his experience was different.
Yeah.
And so but those things occur. And that's something, like, for me, and I think a lot of, I would say, like, my wife, we talk about in social media, it's a little bit more out there. A lot of, like, I think, like, Black, African American communities and Latino communities have that upbringing, to where you are brought up a certain way that either kind of traumatized you. Again, you have these bad habits that you continue to repeat with your own children and your own families. And so a lot of that discussion that we see on social media out there, from, like, now that, like, our generation is growing up, we're like, you know what, I don't need to do this anymore, right? I don't need to hold on to this anymore. Hey, there's a better way to do it, like to what Jonathan said.
There's just saying, and I think most cultures, and it goes from generation, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, which is probably the most terrible saying there is, possibly, because there's always a better way. There's always the ways to make things better. And I think if we just grow up and teach our kids to understand, like, there's always better ways to do things. Tell my kids, hey, I'm pretty sure there's better ways for me to parent, but I'm learning as I go. And I hope you guys are learning from my mistakes, and you can, of course, try new things, spank your fucking, I'm playing, but try new things and just, learn and grow, like, experiment, because we all had to experiment. Our first one went through the roughest, right? I only knew what my parents knew. That's all I knew. And which was, let's yell, let's get aggressive, let's get in your face. I grew up in that dog eats dog environment where I'm getting right here in the grill, getting pushed, getting shoved, yelling, calling all the names, but Amanda, F up. And so that's how Jeremiah, my oldest, for the longest, like, man, I put that on him, and you can see that confidence just break. And you can see him just be a rule follower. Like, now to this day, I've tried to unlearn all the things I was teaching him, or like
teach him,
reteach these things. I had to, like, try to re-engineer his mindset. Like, man, dad did it wrong. Let's try to re-engineer it. And even though I put a lot of efforts into re-engineering his mindsets, but man, he has some hardcore traits from what I was being a father to him growing up. Like, because now he's like such a rule follower. now he doesn't like, he's not outside the box. It's like doing all the check marks because, man, if I didn't do all the check marks, here comes the heat. And so now I'm trying to open him up to be more, hey, let's take more risks. Let's do more things. Let's fail more often. But in the environment I grew him, let's not fail. Let's not fail at all. Like, what are you thinking? Let's correct it immediately. And as we know, as entrepreneurs and to be success, like, yo, we got to look at failure a different way. Like, we need to fail more often. Like, we need to, we need to carry these failures with us and learn, and like a stepping stone. And so like now we're in that phase where it's starting to click a little bit and he's starting to break out. Like, I've seen a lot of progress, but I can still see, it's so deeply rooted for about 8 years of his life, 9, 10, I think maybe 10 years, right? I started supplemental for about 5 years ago. Yeah, about 10 years of just being scared of dad, which is crazy. So Vic, I totally feel you, man. As far as, in group, those traits that I was developing, those bad habits that potentially could carry on to his kids if I don't teach my kids, like, there's better ways to do it. And, I'm changing now, but I need to ensure that let him know, like, yo, we need to try new things. We need to keep experimenting. We need to keep failing in order to keep improving, because we can always be better no matter what, always improve. You got any experiences, Chris?
What sucks for me is, like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we know it's fucking broken. Like, we know that feeling, but yet we're making our kids feel it, but we don't want to turn it inward, right? Like,
That's
like
pride.
we never, and right, it could be probably like this is, I mean, I went through it, wasn't that bad. It could be a billion different things, but at the end of the day, I don't think we took enough time to look inward, excuse me, to be like, my mom or dad did that exact same thing to me, and it felt like dog shit. And I know how that feels, but yet I'm not going to be compassionate to my kid right here and right now and like understand it. That's what's really, really frustrating for me at the moment, because I'm still learning, right?
We're always learning.
Yeah. And like, I there's times where I catch myself, and there's other times where like it takes like my wife or me to actually just start talking to y'all, be like, it could be something like a month ago, but like, dog, you fucked up like that. You knew what you were doing. You know how you felt during that. There's a completely different way to do it, but you didn't do it. I think the bad habits you inherit are extra frustrating, especially if they're making somebody feel the same way you felt, because you know how that was, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, mainly for me is the same, pretty much the same story as Vegas. Like, it's just a Latino family. It's this way and no way other. And I feel like I developed a habit based off of not being able to be mad or show emotion. Like, I'm a very emotional person, caring person, but like, maybe subconsciously, I think I do a lot of things my way instead of the ways people suggest, because I never got to do it my way growing up. So now it's just, I'm older and I'm like, well, I'm gonna do it. And no one can tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing it in a rude or condescending way. Just like in the back of my head. Oh, Jonathan's gone. In the back of my head, I never got to. So I'm taking the opportunity to do that. But that's not always the healthiest thing to do, right? But
Yeah.
How about you, Chris?
Yeah, like, so sometimes I kind of wonder like how I ended up being as calm as I am. Because growing up, like, my dad could definitely, like, if you did something irritating, like, he can like switch like real quick. Like, he could get very hot tempered at times. Remember him snapping my one of my favorite VHSs in half with his hands, like, because me and my brother were pissing him off, so he just broke our Three Ninjas movie, like our VHS.
Dang,
Oh, I
that's a
remember
good
that
one,
movie.
too.
And
The
like,
first
he
one?
had his moment. I think it was the first one. It was either Three Ninjas or Surf Ninjas. It was one of the two.
Both of them
Yeah.
were lit.
But yeah, like, but yeah, I just remember he just like, he got pissed off and just snapped it in half, and like, just like, so he would like have his moments like that where he would just like be very hot tempered. And then like my mom, if you piss her off too, she could be very fiery, like, even to this day. So that's why I don't know how come I didn't become that way. Maybe it just was like, oh, I need to control myself a little more. But I mean, that, not that they can't control themselves, but yeah, I don't know if the one thing that that's kind of a bad habit that I developed from them that I could really think of was kind of being like, there's just like the analysis paralysis. Like my parents overanalyze things way too much. Like there's been so many times where they've wanted to, like they wanted to either buy a car and didn't do it for whatever reason, or they were looking into an investment property and they didn't do it. And that kind of, I mean, they could have been earning a lot more from just those properties or whatever. Like, and they just always, there was always something that held them back. So that is one thing that I used to do a lot more, and I've tried to break that mold because I don't want to do that. I want to take those risks because I know like the reward could be phenomenal, life changing, really. So I think just seeing that, it made me maybe more willing to take risks. And my brother's the same way as them too. He's definitely more over analyzer too. Like he definitely gets that from them.
Yeah, I think we take a lot of stuff from, again, and it could be parents or could be whoever you had who had an influence, you know, of you when you were growing up, right? You kind of, you know, you take, you know, things that you see, and then you kind of absorb it just from the environment that you grow up on. But talking about, you know, we also get like habits, so like financial, like bad habits, like you know, the things that you saw your parents do financially, you kind of, you know, inherit that too. Decision making, things you spend on, things you don't spend or overspend on, you know, things like that. And so and I think right now, I think for you guys, right, you're investing in property and doing this, your kids are seeing that, so their exposure to new things is going to set, you know, they're going to probably do bigger and better things that you guys are doing right now. So I think kind of changing things, changing those habits like now, right? And teaching our kids or bringing that to the forefront in our own families right now is going to be different. It's going to, you know, break those, you know, bad habits, you know, generationally, that, you know, and I think there's, you know, a couple generations like to break habits takes like 1 or 2 or something like that. I read, and I forgot how many, but 2 or 2, like it starts to change, you know, in your family. But I'm glad that, you know, you guys for sure are doing things different. You know, Jonathan is having his kids read books, like, but not just regular books, things that's going to help them like mold their mind, right?
Bro, people thought I was insane. Like literally, I would tell my campers, well, all the stuff that I have my kids do every day. We read, we work out, we practice faith, right? That's the big 3 every single day. And they're like, oh, cool. What books do you read? Well, first of all, they're like, you make your kids work out? Like, how hard are they? And, you know, they start off working out at 5 years old. Like every single one of them at 5, they start working out. And they're like, whoa, you know, and they're like bad, like, oh, you shouldn't make your kids work out. Like you hear all this, you shouldn't with old science, back science, right? And not realizing like, oh, that's what I do for a profession. Like what better hands can people be working out with a certified personal trainer who's knowledgeable anyways. And then the next thing I'll get criticized a ton is like, well, you make your kids read self-development. Like they don't even understand, like they're too little, like they can't, you know, comprehend what's going on in these books. And, you know, whether they comprehend it or not, they're going to be able to grab something, right? First of all, reading books is going to help their development of just actual reading, right? Build the vocabulary, being exposed. And the secondly, man, if they catch a nugget, right? At least they know that dad is not just speaking out the ass, and it's actually like, yo, this is some wise stuff that dad's talking about. And, you know, over time, as they get older, like for Jemiah, things start clicking, bro. Like when I took him with Wilson and the millionaire, we were a millionaire for a day, bro. You really got to see like all the books he's read, like, oh shit, all that makes sense now. Like, because dad says it, dad doesn't have it. It's really like, I don't even know if these books are telling me the truth.
I know,
like,
right?
I know dad, he's a loudmouth, right? Dad just talks big talk all the time. I may or may not believe this guy. I don't see it. And then the books kind of say what dad's saying. But once again, it's not working for dad. I don't see nothing for dad. And so, but bro, when we got to be a millionaire for that one day, that shift of all those books, and here's like a bigger why behind everything that we're actually doing, just made it more focused and more understandable. And now it's like, yo, let's get to work. And like, he's like, let's get to work. Like as an entrepreneur, like, let's get to work, dad. I'm like, yeah, Tell me, fool, I've been getting to work. Like, where you been? You just now on board, dog? I've been on board. So, hey, welcome to the team, son. Anyways, but yeah, guys, I used to get criticized a lot, and just understanding that they weren't bad. They were just taught that these things were probably bad, and there was no bad intention. So that's another thing I want to bring brought up. You brought about financials, right? My parents, we were poor. My dad, we were poor to the poor, and my dad taught me how to be poor, unfortunately, but he thought that was like the best route. It's like, hey, save your money, don't spend your money, and just get a job and don't spend your money and just save it. And somehow you stack money when you're poor, but you got to make it like, so it's weird. But that was the best thing that he knew for me. And I didn't realize money until I was like 27. Like, I honestly did not know how to take care or manage money. I had the poverty mindset. I would get money, I would spend money. I would try to save it, I would save it, but somehow I would still need to grab that saving monies and spend it. So nothing ever happened with my money. And my dad wasn't ill-intentioned whatsoever. I only knew what he knew. And I was going to be on the same path of teaching my kids that. And so I started like opening up all these new perspectives and changing my environment and hanging out with, different levels of people, and them pouring their wisdom on me. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I love my dad. He gave me the best that he possibly could, but things can always get better. Whatever you're doing, things can always get better. So it's just a tough situation, because you want to believe the people that you love. Like, who are you going to listen to the most? My dad and my mom. Like, whatever they say, bro, like, I'm all in. That's my dad, that's my mom. And so that's why it's hard to break that cycle. And that's why it's hard to even think it's a bad habit. Like, that's why we're having this conversation being brought up, because it may not be working for you. It may not be working for you. That's all I'm saying. Like, they're not bad things. People have done things over time that was good to them. It's just not better than what it could be.
And like, so you were kind of the one that broke the mold for like your family. And I like, when I was thinking about, like, I was struggling to figure out like a lot of the bad habits that I acquired. It was like, it's because my parents kind of were the ones to break the mold, and they provided with a lot of good habits. Like, so both my parents are first. I mean, they're the first ones to move out here in our family, and they, instead of like just sticking with all their cultural beliefs and doing everything that their culture is focused on, like, I think because they're from two different areas, they kind of were able to see the other side of things. And then they were also new to America together, so they were also developing the skills, like, I mean, not the skills, but like
new habits of new
the culture, the new cultures, like, and like try to kind of combine all of that for me and my brother. And I mean, I think it definitely helped us out. I mean, we definitely didn't get a lot of the things that I see with certain cultures, like, especially like the way like women are treated, or the way like the expectations of men and women, like, in their cultures.
That's a different topic.
So like just seeing that, and like seeing how especially like how my dad didn't really follow those roles. Maybe because my mom probably wouldn't put up with that shit either, but like, they definitely like showed us
back there, bro.
They definitely like showed us better ways to treat like your significant other, and just treat other people in general. So like, that's why I think I struggled so much with trying to figure out the negative habit or the bad habits that I developed from them, because primarily they were all good, with the exception of a few. But
I would say, I think there's with even though there's a lot of we're talking about bad habits that we're here, but there's also good things that we get from our parents. Well, it's not all bad. So I want to make sure that our listeners don't think, oh man, this guy grew up with bad parents.
Terrible.
Yeah.
We didn't grow up that bad. Look where we are now.
I know. So so to what Chris is saying, I definitely got a lot of good tips as far as like relationship wise, like things like good examples and things like that. We're just building upon, like I said, a better way. Like our parents taught us the best they could, right? They broke the mold from what they grew up, for sure. So I know like my dad grew up with an alcoholic dad, so he vowed to not do that. He didn't, like, and so he broke the mold as far as that. Uh, so a lot of things that they build upon, they changed, right? With like me and my brothers and sister and stuff like that. So for sure, there's a lot of good things that we got from our parents, but little things that that is still kind of lingered, right? It's something that I think we're doing better at. And like Chris has a baby on the way, so that baby's gonna come into hey, dad the investor, so he's gonna learn like all that stuff just from the get-go.
And I want to say, drop your pride when you're going into a new endeavor, like say, for example, like parenting. People think I don't need to read a parenting book. I already know kind of everything I need to know. And that's like the wrong mindset to go into parent. I remember having Desi making me read daddy books. I was like, what you mean? Like, I am daddy. I'll write the book. I'm playing. But that was a mindset. Like, why do you think we think it comes natural? And yeah, maybe it does come natural, but there's levels to improvement, right? So, even though you're about to go into a new phase, Chris, but you don't have too much of a pride or an ego to be like, okay, let's read upon some stuff, right? Same thing with our relations with our spouse. It's okay. Well, it's only okay at this point now, but how can you make it better? Like, and how do we learn? Books, podcasts, interviews, Google. There's always ways to sweeten the pot and make
there's an unlimited source out there for you.
Unlimited source. But I actually want to go and change directions just a tad bit, because we're talking about habits and relearning habits, because we do need to be able to identify, right? This episode, more than anything, is like, all right, maybe you need to pause, maybe you need to identify and be like, man, do I have any habits that aren't serving me? I think it's the best way to put it. Bad habits. I wouldn't necessarily say that these are bad habits. They're just better than habits that you could be changing or maneuvering or transforming into better habits. But this podcast is huge, this episode, on just realizing that your majority of your day is controlled by habits, whether you know it or not. I think over 40% of your things that you do per day are just habitual, right? Just driving a car. I don't know if you guys experience driving, and maybe you're driving from work, wherever you're driving for, and then you get home and you don't even realize how you got home. Like, it was just straight autopilot.
Oh, you daze out? Yeah, that's scary.
Like, you just daze out, and you're like, and you get home, you're like, the fuck? Like, you don't remember anything in between that drive, stop sign, stop lights. Like, did I run a red light? Like, what happened? It was so habitual and so habit, right? And so, identifying maybe some habits that can get better from your past, maybe they're cultural, maybe they're generations, identifying, and then like going into research mode on, all right, maybe this habit's not serving me the best way. How can I upgrade this habit? Or even replace it. Like, maybe it's maybe a bad habit, something that's really not serving you and it's taking you in the wrong direction from your goal, like say alcohol. Like, you might need to be replacing some habits. And so I think you guys hit the mark on just really stopping, pausing, evaluating, and like refocusing and repurposing your habits, because they control majority of your day. And that's massive, right? Without knowing these, you're unknowingly giving yourself a 50% chance of succeeding, which is actually pretty good stats. 50% chance. I want that chance. But you could be increasing your chance way more by just identifying what can get better.
Yeah, and other ways to overcome those habits. I mean, you kind of already touched on acknowledging it, identifying it, and then you also mentioned what was it? Trying to change or replace it with a different habit.
Yeah.
You can also, I think, a big part of it is just like exposing yourself to the other environments that might help break you out of those. Kind of like I mentioned with my parents moving out here to the States. Obviously not everyone thinks and acts the same way as they do where they're from. So you actually you can actually see some of those things that, oh, maybe the way we did things over here isn't the best. Like, that isn't the best way to do things. And just exposing yourself to a new environment, whether it's with a different group of friends, different culture, different whatever, like, it can help change those habits and potentially make them either better habits or just new habits that you can acquire and
change your environment. I know a lot of folks that kind of are in the wrong environment, develop habits, and it's hard to change habits when you're just still in that maybe toxic environment. So I get what you're saying, like changing, giving yourself an opportunity to kind of like restart, right? Hit that restart button in a different place.
Exactly.
A lot of people do that for sure.
So I also want to talk about how long does it take to build a new habit? Y'all know the number?
It's 1,000 hours. Remember that? I'm just kidding.
90 days.
No, I don't know.
Days. What, Chris, you got to take a guess?
Say 60 days.
They're doing it like a 20th time or something like that.
20
I think for me it was, I think it was a book or an article, but it's like 21 days. But then that got like debunked a little
that's
bit.
debunked. Like
Yeah.
that's like the most common because the fastest
Yeah.
ones people want to adopt that, but that's not the case whatsoever. It's the app. So there's a number, but it ranges because everyone's different. Everyone learns differently and everybody adapts differently. But it's 66 days is like, if you want a number, there's a number, but it could be like a little bit less than that. It could be way more than that. And so my mindset is take the days off, because why are you going to stop this new, better habit? And this is what I experienced with 75 hard, is because I did 75 or did 60 days, whatever the case may be. I did a hardcore challenge of, doing all the success habits to have, get 1% better. It's actually like 7% better with all the things that make you do every single day. But as soon as there was an end date to that, it like totally, it kind of like it was an end date to it. And then like I experienced, normally before that, I was already doing it just day to day, just drinking alcohol day to day, but with all the good stuff though. But when I put this freaking date on it, this end date, and I didn't complete it, but when I got to 60 days and I stopped because I didn't get my second workout in or workouts in, like it shifted my mindset where I can just like ease back on everything because I put a date on it. As before, I was already doing it with no date, and I was just doing it day to day, just like nonchalant, like making progress galore. But as soon as I put that freaking date on it, as if like I made it to the promised land, I found out like, man, that date like really jacked things up. And because you're finished, there's a period behind it. It should be a comma like after that. But because
and whether you make it or you get close, and like if you already failed, then you're like, well, what's the, like, I don't need to continue to do this.
Whether you make it, maybe you accomplish 75. Whether you fail or make it is the same exact thing. That's
what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not just if you make it, like, but yeah, if you also fail, that makes you less likely to want to continue to push and do it all over again.
It just made me get a new perspective on any challenge.
Yeah.
And I was all like, wow.
Yeah. Well, I think that it is a challenge. It's not a way of life. It's something that, okay, I'm going to do this to hopefully learn something, right? Because all the book reading, right? I'm definitely going to improve my fitness because I'm working out twice a day, right?
You're gonna digress fast.
Yeah,
because you gotta stop.
That's the problem with times. So we go really hard and then you digress. Oh, should I gain 5 pounds back?
Gain that stuff back and go to spiral out of control, emotional spiral.
Yeah,
and you're back to a gallon of freaking ice cream, and then you're back to square one.
Right. But I think that's true. I think you just gotta take it. And I think that's the problem with extreme challenges is because when you go back to normal, then it's like, oh crap, I'm back to where I started, back to plant same point I started with. But I think if you like you said,
that was my normal. That was the craziest thing, and it still jacked me up. Like I told you, the only thing that was different, I was doing everything the challenge was already doing. But as soon as I put that freaking date on it, I put a period on it, it just threw me off.
I would say like this, doing a challenge holds you accountable. And I think that's sometimes you need that little jolt to get you back, right? The little accountability, like I gotta get this done, type of thing. I can't miss, right?
Can there be a way to not put a period though? like shifted from the very beginning. As
I mean,
like
you're the one. I would say this, that
expectations.
it's hard to keep that high for a long period of time. You're the one that preaches that. To be honest with you, it's hard to keep a high for a long period of time.
But I train in that way, and I can maintain
You
that
weren't.
way.
I would say this: the like last time I saw you, you were the thinnest I've seen you since the first time I met you. So you haven't been this hard in a long time, boy. And I've known you for like 5 years, 6 years now. When I met you, you were thin. You hadn't been that thin in a while, bro. Like lean,
And
not
like,
thin.
I mean,
gotten
and when you
jacked.
think about it, even like
Yeah.
bodybuilders, like they have their cycles. It's not like they can maintain that
But I
that
get
fitness.
That's
like, the
unhealthy.
whole-
Cycles,
Yeah.
cycles very unhealthy. There's studies, like bodybuilders really go through some deep ass depression because of anything cycles, or is high and there's low. There's like a rebound, mental rebound, and it's not good. And that's kind of same
Exactly.
experience. When you're going through a cycle, this was a cycle challenge. Are you going to hit it? There's a period, there's a stop. I'm just wondering, hey, maybe set the expectations early on. Is like, let's hit this milestone, but like somehow, some way, you'll have the plan already. Like, there's a plan already after that comma. I guess I didn't have a plan.
Well, that was, you had to, this was continuously like every day, right? It was
Yeah.
there was no break. So
There's
I
no
think
break.
that's the hard part. I think you got to give yourself like a break. You can still have the same, for example, like the same habits of working out, reading, and stuff like that, but having that maybe like that mental break. I think it's all
Yeah.
mental, like in between. Wow, and then still do it. Like this was the challenge was to not miss. But if you do the same thing 5 days a week and 2 days off in between, where maybe you don't work out twice, maybe you work out once, right? But you're still working out, right? Or something. So I think just the habit of building of doing something every day, maybe not as extreme.
No, I remember
after
I
a while-
preached about it. Like, there's definitely levels to this. I don't recommend 75 hard for anybody who's not at a habit stacker, who's already been developing habits over time. But like, I
start
like
restarting every 2 days.
yeah, I like to pride myself on being a great habit stacker, and like really having a very high regimen and being able to maintain that regimen. So when I did the 75 hard, I was able to go so far, and I had some circumstances that stopped me with car trouble and stuff like that I couldn't control. But anyways, yeah, so let's go back to habits, talk about goals real quick, guys. Just like how you accomplish anything, you got to start small. Like Victor said, you got to start small. You can't be habit stacking and say, I'm going to change the whole world and New Year's resolution and new year, new me type mindset, because you're going to ultimately like put yourself in a bad situation that you've been doing year by year. Insanity. But set those small goals, change your environment, make systems in place that make backup plans, and have backup plans, and have more backup plans, and more accountability and groups. And you got to identify those triggers. I was reading on when you're setting habit goals, is something I've never done, but it says plan to fail. And we just spoke about that, because I was trained, like, I really have to start switching my mindset. I was trained as like, I'm not going to plan to fail. Like, I'm putting it out there in the world, I'm going to fail. But then in actuality, when you're planning for it, you're able to adapt and quickly move if that does happen. And so I was like, oh, but the ego in me is like, no, I'm not failing. So like, I'm still having to like keep an open mind and challenge myself on, let's start failure planning just a tad bit. Like, you don't have to go too deep in it, but start putting out the scenarios if they are happening. If the storm does come, I do need to know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think also, like I said, like do it in tidbits. Like right now, the reason I've been able to get workouts in, I've actually chopped it up. Like I don't spend an hour like in one session. Like I'll do like 20 minutes of like running in the morning.
7-minute abs.
Something like that. I'm just
Or
kidding.
6 minutes. Something
like,
about Mary. I remember that.
Somewhere around there.
oh yeah.
Haven't seen that in so long.
4-minute abs. Yeah. Anyways.
So
all right.
like I'll do like a 20-minute run, in the morning, and then sometime in the day I'll hit the gym. Like I'll see where my gaps are in my schedule in the day. I'm like, okay, that's my gap. That's where I'm going, and I hit it. Like I'm there like 30 minutes, just rocking, so it all adds up to hey, I worked out. like an hour and a half or whatever I did, depending on my gaps. But I think just like that, like, hey, I not getting that full time. Like if you have a goal of reading, right? Read, 5 minutes, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes, adds up to a lot, right? Next thing you know, you read for an hour, but not like straight, if that's your goal, like to read for an hour or something like that. But yeah, like take it in tidbits, and then after a while, then you start building that habit. Then it becomes like just second nature,
habitual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, that was a good episode, guys. I appreciate y'all giving us your stories and how we grew up and actually being vulnerable, right? Having to say that we had to yell at our kids and get a little aggressive. I know I did, but yeah, we grow and we learn. We grow and we learn. Anything tangible that you want to leave them with real quick?
I think you kind of said some of the things. Is one is just kind of self-evaluate, right? So write things down. If you have habits that you're like, man, like I really don't want, write the habits, right, that you think you need improvement on. Like say maybe not bad habits, things you need to improve on. Like, okay, I think I need this. Make a list, or even talk to others, like talk to your spouse, talk to friends, family, like, hey, like I'm trying to improve my habits. Like what are habits do you think sometimes you don't even notice? You're kind of blindsided, like
you probably don't need to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Because right? you don't know sometimes that you have a bad habit until someone calls you out on it.
Right.
So, like I do that. You do that.
Yeah.
My bad.
So that's one thing, and then pick one, like John said, pick one or two habits to work on, and then
I learned now, just pick one. No, just get hyper focused, pick one.
Go from there, work on it for 66 or whatever days.
Yeah,
right.
There's a quote on people who try to do two things at one time is you can't make two things a top priority. I get it, because it's top, like there can't be two top priorities.
There's only one.
There's only one.
Unless it's Twin Towers, what?
Okay, bud.
You get two different teams, two different team captains doing that, bro.
Yeah, so get those two things, right? Just make a list, self-evaluate in the areas, get someone to kind of help you out, and then just put a goal, set that one thing, work on it, right? And then go on to the next one, and before you know it, right, you built a whole different habits.
Chris, you got anything, brother?
No, I think we touched on pretty much everything that I wanted to discuss. So
it was good, man. I just have one thing, guys. It's never too late to unlearn some things, gain some new perspectives, and identify which ones are not moving us forward. And so that way you can start moving that needle forward and get 1% better.
Ooh, I like that. That's how we finish it.
Cut podcast done. I like it. Maybe my only tangible is don't beat yourself up to a certain extent, right? End it with a comma, not a period. Just because today you're doing something you don't like doesn't mean it has to happen tomorrow. Because it took forever for you to learn the habit you're doing, so it's gonna take almost just as long for you to unlearn it, right?
Oh, that was good. It takes 21 years to be 21.
Exactly. So yeah, don't beat yourself up. It's a process. It's not, you can't fix it tomorrow, but as long as you're trying to fix it, that should be a win in your book.
That's good.
Jonathan cannot, as much as he wants to say he can.
You saw me?
Yeah, always watching. But no, there's a quote by Dennis Waitley. It says, the truth is you don't break a bad habit, you replace it with a good one. A good one, yeah. So you're born to be great, so go do it. Change those habits for the better, for you, for your family, and the generations after. As always, thanks for joining us today. Till next time, peace and love.